Canelo, a hell of a fighter, but my personal opinion, he's ducking Benavidez.
Breaking news, Floyd Mayweather gave his reaction to Canelo and Ryan Garcia beef on Fight Hype, where he stated, quote, "You see, Ryan Garcia, first he praises Canelo, right? He want to learn from Canelo. You are in Canelo's training camp. Now it's all hate. Oh, I don't like him. I don't like this. I don't like him. Accomplish what Canelo has accomplished, then speak bad about him. You know what I mean? But you don't need to speak bad about him anyway, because we all need to stay in our own lane and do us. So you really shouldn't speak bad about him if you went to his training camp to learn from him and to be his student. One thing about Canelo, he's gonna step up to the plate and do what he gotta do. He's gonna fight. I may shoot shots at him, but he's gonna fight. I can't knock that mother effer because he's going down in the Hall of Fame." End of the quote. So what you gonna do, Canelo? Floyd just called you the MF word. All jokes aside, first of all, Floyd Mayweather made some good points because he went through a semi-similar experience with Tank. Second of all, this could be a tactic for Floyd Mayweather to get Ryan to grow some cojones and fight Tank. Third of all, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but Floyd Mayweather lost me when he said that Canelo Alvarez, he's gonna fight. And I'm sitting here like, he's gonna fight who? Avni Yildirim? Rocky Fielding? A 40 years old Gennady Golovkin that's moving up in weight after turning down a Bivol rematch at 168? Or maybe fighting all of these B and C level Europeans. The European tour Canelo Alvarez been on. Is that what Floyd Mayweather meant when he said at the end of the day, or at least the night, Canelo is gonna fight? Well, of course Canelo's gonna fight because he's a fighter. That's the title of his job. He has to fight. But the million-dollar question, will he fight the best? Is he gonna fight his rivals? Canelo Alvarez has been a pro for 17 years. And would you believe that Canelo Alvarez have yet to fight any of his rivals, from the Charlo twins to Demetrius Andrade? In fact, it's the contrary. Canelo Alvarez have been ducking the Fabulous Four of his time. He have turned down multiple fights with his rivals on multiple occasions. Canelo turned down fights with Jermell Charlo at 154, causing Golden Boy to lose Jermell Charlo. Canelo Alvarez turned down an undisputed fight with Demetrius Andrade for his biggest payday at the time on DAZN. Canelo Alvarez has also turned down $45 million plus pay-per-view to fight Jermell Charlo. And last but not least, Canelo turned down 3 offers to fight the Mexican monster, David Benavidez. Keep in mind, Canelo Alvarez turned down 2 offers to fight David Benavidez back when David Benavidez actually was the WBC champion, before he got stripped when he missed the weight. But ironically, as soon as Benavidez got stripped of the WBC title, that's when Canelo requested to fight Avni Yildirim for that title. A fighter coming off a loss and a 2-year layoff, which Canelo did the exact same thing when he was Demetrius Andrade mandatory back at 154. And this year alone, Canelo turned down the biggest payday of his career to this day, of $55 million plus pay-per-view to fight the Mexican monster Benavidez. That's when he turned around and fought Bivol for $15 million. $40 million less than what he was gonna get to fight Benavidez. Canelo fought Bivol in a cherry pick that gone wrong, because Canelo says he's about legacy. However, he ended up fighting an unknown fighter in Bivol that even his own fans did not ask him to fight, as you guys can tell on the polls above. But after he lost to Bivol, like I predicted, he turned down a rematch even at 168. Wait a minute, what kind of chasing legacy is that? Chasing legacy is fighting Bivol right away after you lost to him in an embarrassing fashion. The facts are, chasing legacy doesn't involve fighting a 40 years old Gennady Golovkin that Canelo purposefully was waiting to age him out. At the very least, Canelo Alvarez could have moved back down to 168 to fight the Mexican monster, his mandatory for his biggest payday to this day, the fighter that everyone want Canelo Alvarez to fight, from Mike Tyson to Floyd Mayweather, so on and so forth.
Canelo, hell of a fighter, but my personal opinion, he's ducking Benavidez.
And as you guys heard Floyd Mayweather say a few months ago, Canelo is ducking David Benavidez. So clearly, he is not fighting the best, which is exactly Ryan Garcia's point. Canelo Alvarez have been a professional for 17 years, and he have yet to fight any of his rivals, any of his fabulous four of his time. But they want Ryan Garcia to fight the fabulous four of his time. They want Ryan to fight his rivals from Gervonta to Devin Haney right now. That's why Ryan is ducking them like there's no tomorrow. Yeah, of course, there's no doubt about it. Ryan would love to fight a Matthew Hatton in order to become a champion. He will knock out a Matthew Hatton in a heartbeat. But like Ryan Garcia said, he doesn't have the luxury to fight an unranked Matthew Hatton. He pretty much have to fight the Charlo, the Demetrius Andrade of his division to become a champion, which is something that Canelo is not willing to do to this day. Ryan did not say anything wrong. Floyd Mayweather fought Hernandez, the longest reigning 130-pound champion, in order to become a champion at 21 years old, while Canelo was given a title to fight a tomato can that wasn't even ranked in Matthew Hatton. Furthermore, Floyd Mayweather said that he can't knock Canelo because he's going down in the Hall of Fame. Well, I hate to give Floyd Mayweather bad news, but the Hall of Fame have been watered down so much that they even have Rocky Balboa in the Hall of Fame. I saw so many people question why Holly Holmes and so many other athletes made it to the Hall of Fame. Well, Holly Holmes is well more deserving than a Rocky Balboa or some of these actors and fighters that they have on the Hall of Fame. That's why when Floyd Mayweather got inducted to the Hall of Fame, they should have made a separate Hall of Fame for Floyd, such as the GOAT Hall of Fame. More importantly, Floyd Mayweather always receives so much backlash for speaking the truth and calling out the double standards. However, for the first time, the same people that hate on Floyd, they supporting and loving what Floyd Mayweather said, just to prove they don't love you. They just love what you say if you support the old media narrative. And they only gonna love what you say for a week or maximum 2. Then after that is back to the hate. That's why you guys see so many athletes fall for the Canelo Alvarez syndrome, because they get hypnotized by Canelo Alvarez fans. I noticed Floyd Mayweather started repeating Canelo Alvarez fans' talking point that they flood in the comment section, but he never responded to it accurately. You hear Canelo Alvarez fans always say, Canelo Alvarez, he's doing exactly what Floyd Mayweather is doing. You just a Canelo hater. But ironically, they hate Floyd Mayweather but love Canelo. That's one hypocritical statement. But let's dissect these comments even further, such as Floyd Mayweather, just like Canelo, he picked and chose whoever he wanted to fight. But the main difference is Floyd Mayweather, with his position to pick and choose whoever he wanted to fight, he actually picked and chose to fight the best every single time for the biggest amount of money. On the other hand, Canelo Alvarez pick and choose the weakest opposition for the lowest amount of money. He turned down the biggest paydays with Benavidez, Andrade, and Charlo to cherry pick other fighters for way less money because they were way less risky. If Floyd Mayweather was in Canelo Alvarez's shoes today, he would have had fought Charlo, Benavidez, Andrade, Bivol, Beterbiev, David Morrell, back to back to back, just like that. Because that's what Floyd Mayweather did throughout his entire career. He chased down and fought all of his rivals. From Zab Judah to Pacquiao to Sugar Shane Mosley to Oscar De La Hoya to Miguel Cotto, Hernandez to Corrales, Ricky Hatton, and even upcomers such as the young hungry lions like Canelo Alvarez. Now, first of all, Floyd Mayweather had two different stages. The Pretty Boy stage for 10 years and the Money Mayweather stage. Now, Pretty Boy Floyd was the boogeyman, just like Devin Haney today. On the other hand, the Money Mayweather stage was the money man, where Floyd Mayweather picked and chose whoever he wanted to fight. So the $1 million question, what exactly Floyd Mayweather did when he was in that position compared to Canelo Alvarez when he was in that position, or when he is in that position today? Well, one thing for sure and two things for certain. Floyd Mayweather picked and chose the biggest and the best available opponents that the fans, the public, the critics, and old media requested him to fight. Every single time. They told him to fight Manny Pacquiao. Floyd Mayweather sent Manny Pacquiao an offer in 2009 for $50 million guaranteed, plus 50-50 split on the pay-per-view. But it was Manny Pacquiao who turned down the fight prime for prime because of a steroid test. So clearly, it was Pacquiao who was either ducking or cheating, or even all of the above. You guys can go back to the Brian Kenny interviews. Every time he told Floyd Mayweather to fight somebody, Floyd Mayweather fought him right away. Brian Kenny told Floyd Mayweather to fight Sugar Shane Mosley. Floyd Mayweather whooped Sugar Shane Mosley next. Brian Kenny told Floyd Mayweather to fight Ricky Hatton. Floyd Mayweather fought Ricky Hatton right away. Brian Kenny told Floyd Mayweather to fight Baldomir. Floyd Mayweather destroyed Baldomir right after that. They told Floyd Mayweather to fight Corrales. You afraid of Corrales? Floyd Mayweather smashed him right after that. They told Money Mayweather, you afraid of Canelo? That's when Floyd Mayweather went ahead and destroyed Canelo. More importantly, Floyd Mayweather fought all of these legendary fighters coming off their biggest win. From Maidana, Pacquiao, Ortiz, Sugar Shane Mosley, Oscar De La Hoya, Corrales, Ricky Hatton, Baldomir, Marquez, Hernandez, and the list goes on and on and on, which raises the question, since you Canelo fans love to compare Floyd to Canelo, then when is Canelo Alvarez going to start doing the same thing Floyd Mayweather did throughout his entire career, which is fight the best, fight your rivals, fight the fighters that the critics, the public, and even your own fans want you to fight, such as Charlo, Andrade, and David Benavidez. But instead, Canelo Alvarez ends up fighting unknown fighters, European fighters that's coming off their worst performances. From Billy Joe Saunders, who was losing before he got the stoppage, to Caleb Smith, who came off a robbery, to Ryder, to Kovalev, who actually was 1 foot out of the door and 1 punch away from getting knocked out by Anthony Yarde. Plus, one fight before that, he got knocked out by another Alvarez. Avni Yildirim coming off a loss and a 2-year layoff. Rocky Fielding, even Gennady Golovkin. Every time Canelo fought him, he was coming off a terrible performance. A lot of people don't know that when Canelo fought Bivol came off a split decision fight. More importantly, to this day, Canelo Alvarez haven't fought any of his rivals, any of the Fabulous Four of his time, to this day. So again, when is Canelo Alvarez going to start doing what Floyd Mayweather did throughout his entire career? Because Floyd Mayweather fought the Fabulous Four of his time. Right away, Floyd Mayweather fought his rivals as soon as they accepted to fight him. See, Floyd Mayweather rivals were actually the ones that were ducking him. That's why Pretty Boy was the boogeyman, the A-class boogeyman. Sugar Shane Mosley in his prime ducked Floyd Mayweather. Oscar De La Hoya in his prime ducked Floyd Mayweather. Tim Tszyu ducked Floyd Mayweather. Manny Pacquiao ducked Floyd Mayweather and turned down a 50-50 split because of a steroid test. Prime for prime back in 2009. Miguel Cotto at 140 ducked Floyd Mayweather. The only fighters that had the cojones to fight Pretty Boy in his prime was Zab Judah, Hernandez, Corrales, Baldemir, and fighters like that. But even after Pretty Boy Floyd became Money Mayweather, he ended up fighting all of the fighters that ducked him, all of the rivals that didn't want to fight Pretty Boy. Floyd Mayweather fought them right away as Money Mayweather when he was in that position that Canelo is in today. Floyd Mayweather fought Oscar De La Hoya, Ricky Hatton, Marquez, Pacquiao, Sugar Shane Mosley, Miguel Cotto, Canelo, Maidana. Floyd Mayweather fought all of his rivals, from Zab Judah to Corrales, and you name it. Even when Floyd Mayweather had a close fight, Floyd Mayweather gave that opponent a rematch right away like he did with Castillo and Maidana, where in the rematch he beat them even more decisively. However, on the other hand, Canelo, every time he has a close fight or loses in a robbery or a clear loss, like he did against Lara and Bivol, Canelo won't even give his opponent a rematch. That's why you can never compare Floyd to Canelo. It's night and day. You can't compare a goat to a sheep. Floyd Mayweather went out of his way to fight the best, while Canelo goes out of his way to duck the best for his biggest payday / legacy day. That's why Floyd Mayweather shouldn't get discouraged from speaking the truth, but instead point out these direct double standards and hypocrisy by old media and the fans. By asking, where is Canelo Alvarez's version of Howard Cosell? Where is Canelo Alvarez's version of Brian Kenny? Where they get to ask Floyd Mayweather and Muhammad Ali all of the tough questions. On the other hand, Canelo Alvarez get the max hypocrisy Kellerman, the racially biased reporter on ESPN, who actually defends and encourages Canelo and all of the fighters on the hope list to duck all of the fighters on the coincidental list. You will never find a Brian Kenny, a Howard Cosell keep that same energy when it comes to Canelo Alvarez, because Canelo has the complexion for the connection to get the ultimate protection, which is why I completely agree with Ryan Garcia. He did not tell not a single lie. He told the absolute truth on Canelo. Floyd Mayweather had to fight Hernandez, the longest reigning 130-pound champion. That's who Floyd Mayweather had to fight to become a champion at 20 years old, or 21, I believe. One of the two. While Canelo fought Ricky Hatton brother Matthew Hatton, a 147-pounder that wasn't even ranked on the top 10, for a vacant title at 154. You really can't make this up. Canelo Alvarez never fought a legit champion and beat him until he was 27 years old. Because when he fought Smith, that was for Andrade vacant title. When Canelo was Andrade mandatory, he never wanted to fight Andrade, but as soon as Smith got the title, Canelo requested to fight him right away. So that's not considered a legit champion. The first legit champion Canelo fought and beat was Gennady Golovkin in the rematch after he tested positive for steroids. These are the facts, and I already went in depth on this subject, which I'm gonna leave the link for that video in the comment section below, of Ryan Garcia basically trashing Canelo becoming a champion at 20 years old by fighting an unranked Matthew Hatton. So check that video out in the comment section below. Subscribe below and click on the notification bell to be continued on the next episode of Akhi, Akhi TV. Peace, and I'm on to the next one.
But what we don't talk about is, Canelo. Steroids. Y'all don't talk about that. So we don't know. We really don't know all the fighters he beat. And he was What he could have been not clean in a lot of fights.
You think he was clean the night he fought?
I'm saying I don't know. I don't know. That's y'all. Just Canelo. Come on, man. That kid was a cakewalk. Kid, easy.